Hey everyone, today we're jumping back in time to ancient Rome to look at its very first written rulebook, the 12 Tables. Now, this isn't just some dusty old document, oh no, it's a set of laws that completely changed the game for everyone.
Imagine you're playing a big game, but only the other team knows the rules. They can make up new ones whenever they want, and you have absolutely no way to argue. Sounds totally unfair, right? Well, that's pretty much what life was like for the average person in the early Roman Republic. So to really get why these 12 tables were such a big deal, we first have to understand the massive power struggle that was going on right at the heart of Roman society.
Okay, so you had two main groups. On one side, you had the patricians. These were the rich, powerful families, the ruling elite. They knew all the laws because the laws weren't even written down. They were just traditions passed down among them. And on the other side, you had the plebeians, the common people. They were completely at the mercy of patrician judges who could basically interpret or just make up the rules to help themselves. It was a seriously unfair system.
Well, eventually the plebeians got fed up with being pushed around. They demanded a change, and their fight for fairness led to this amazing, groundbreaking solution. Let's write the laws down so everyone can see them. What they decided to do was to codify the laws. Now, that's a key word here. To codify something just means to arrange rules in an organized way and write them down. It seems super obvious to us today, but back then, it was a radical idea. It meant justice was no longer a secret that only the powerful could know. So, how did they pull it off? Well, back in 451 BC, a special committee of 10 guys was created. They did their homework. They actually studied legal systems from other places. Then, they drafted a clear set of laws. And here's the most important part. They carved them onto 12 huge bronze tablets. And they didn't hide them away somewhere. Nope, they put them right in the middle of the Roman Forum, which was the busiest place in the entire city, so that no one could ever say again, "Oh, I didn't know that was the law." Okay, so the laws are finally out in the open. What did they actually say? Let's start with something really fundamental: how they handled crime and going to court.
The table set up some clear ground rules for a fair trial. For instance, if you were summoned to court, you had to go, no excuses. Trials had to happen out in public where everybody could watch, which created a whole new level of transparency. And maybe most important of all, no citizen could be put to death without a proper formal trial. They were also really tough on bribery. A judge caught taking a bribe could actually face the death penalty themselves.
The Romans took honesty so seriously that one of the worst crimes you could possibly commit was giving false witness. In other words, just flat out lying in court. And the punishment? It was unbelievably severe. If you were caught lying in a trial, you would be thrown off the Tarpeian Rock, a really steep cliff right there in the city. That shows you just how vital they thought truth was to the whole idea of justice. The laws also dealt with something that today we call a tort. It's just a legal term for any kind of wrongful act that causes someone harm, like if you get injured by someone else. For example, let's say somebody broke your arm. The law actually allowed for retaliation in kind. And yeah, that means exactly what it sounds like, an eye for an eye. You could literally do the same thing right back to them. But, and this is a big but, the law also really encouraged people to just settle the dispute with a cash payment instead, to try and stop those endless cycles of revenge. But the 12 tables weren't just about crime and punishment. They dug deep into everyday life, regulating everything from money and debt to the very structure of the Roman family itself. When it came to owing money, the rules were incredibly strict. If a judge ruled that you owed somebody a debt, you had exactly 30 days to pay it back. Not 31, 30. And if you didn't pay, well, the consequences were harsh. The person you owed money to could legally grab you, put you in chains, and even sell you into slavery to pay off what you owed. It really shows you how seriously they took keeping your financial promises. All right, now let's get into one of the most powerful and, honestly, kind of shocking concepts in all of Roman law. Something called patria potestas. That translates to the father's power. And it was the absolute legal control a father had over his entire household. And when I say absolute, I am not kidding. A father had the legal right to decide the fate of his own children. He could even sell his son into slavery. In fact, the law got so specific that it said if a son was sold 3 times, then he was finally free from his dad's control. And in one particularly jarring rule, the law required that a severely deformed infant had to be removed from the family. It was a very, very different world. So, okay,
A lot of these laws sound pretty brutal to us today, right? But their impact has been anything but small. The 12 tables created this incredible legal legacy that has actually lasted for thousands of years.
The really revolutionary idea at the core of the 12 tables was this: government should be based on the set of rules, not on the whims of whatever powerful person is in charge. This established the rule of law, a concept that is the absolute foundation of so many modern democracies.
Ultimately, so many of the big ideas in the 12 tables are still with us. The idea that laws have to be written down in public, that's from them. The principle that the law should apply equally to everybody, the right to a trial, all of these fundamental protections we value today can be traced right back to those 12 bronze tablets in the Roman Forum.
And that brings me to a final thought for you. From the right to a public trial to the idea that the law itself is the ultimate authority, these ancient Roman concepts have shaped our modern world. So, which one of these ideas do you think is the most important for keeping our own society fair and just today?